So we're gonna start making the drawer now. The process for making the drawer is gonna start with a 1/2-inch piece of plywood. This is a little thinner than what you're used to using. And then the piece that you'll be given is probably gonna be a little bit bigger than you need. So we want it to fit in the drawer opening. And so we're gonna rip that board to width. So what I'm gonna do is just take this piece of wood on the back side with my pencil, draw a little line, and then rip it to there, test fit it, see if it works, and then if it works, we'll go to the next step. So I got my piece of wood and I ripped it to the width that I need so it fits in there. If you can get it nice and tight, here you'll see a little bit of a gap. You want about that much of a gap so your drawer doesn't get bound up in there. So this piece is gonna make all 4 sides of our drawer, but the next step we gotta do is create a groove in the bottom. So up here, what I'm gonna do is go 1/4 inch from here up, and then 1/4 inch again, and then I'm gonna go 1/4 inch deep. That's gonna make sense here in just a second. So let me measure out 1/4 inch. And I'll go another 1/4 inch. So there's my 2 1/4 inch marks, and I'll just run this back to there, run that back to there. And then I'm going to also make a 1/4 inch mark here. I've done this long enough where I can closely guesstimate 1/4 inch. And then what I want to do is I want to remove this material. I'm going to do that on the table saw. So why don't you go over here, cameraman? I'm going to set the height of the blade for 1/4 inch. So the way I'm going to do that is with my square. I'm going to set my square for 1/4 inch, so right there. So the distance between this part and that part is 1/4 inch. And I'll put my square. Oops. Sorry about that, I dropped the mic. Only happy accidents, right? Okay, so like that. And then get it just so that blade is barely touching that square. Right about there. Okay, so that's 1/4 inch high. And then using my marks here, I'm gonna go ahead and get me 1/4 inch away from the blade. So right now, the distance between the inside of the blade and the fence is 1/4 inch. And on camera, I'll make those cuts. I need to take a little bit more off, so I'm going to scoot the fence over a little bit and finish that cut. One more little adjustment. And there's my groove. Off camera, I cut 2 boards at 12 inches long. What those are going to become are the sides of the drawer. So that one goes here and one goes here. The next thing I got to do is measure between this face and this face. And I want a board cut to that length minus about 1/16 of an inch to give it some wiggle room so the drawer can go in and out. So in this case, I'm going to measure, I'm going to cut this one at 10 5/8. see how that treats me and make adjustments as needed. Okay, so 10 5/8 was a little bit too long. Off camera, I trimmed him to the right size. So basically you want about that much wiggle room. A little less wouldn't hurt. So the next thing we gotta do is start to attach our drawer pieces together. So to do that, we're gonna do a series of holes on the drawer side itself. So again, I've done this before, so I know what a 1/4 inch looks like, but I'm going to mark a line here where the distance from here to here is 1/4 of an inch. I'm gonna do that on all of my drawer sides. For right now, I'm going to leave the front and back alone. Okay, from there, we want to lay out our hole locations. So we're going to come down an inch, up an inch, and then find the center. So let me go ahead and do that. So we're going to go in an inch, we're going to go up an inch, and then find the center of 4 7/8. Half of 5 is 2 1/2, a little less, so 2 7/16. Okay, so those are my hole locations. Off camera, I'll repeat that, and then we'll meet back at the drill press. Okay, so with my hole locations all marked out here, I'm gonna take a screw, just grab any screw from the bin there, and then I'm gonna take a screw and just tap a little starting point. So when we drill on the drill press, we are going to have a nice little starting point for our drill. Off camera, I'm going to go ahead and drill through these on the drill press. We don't want to use a hand drill, we want to use a drill press. And after I'm done with this, we'll go to the next step, which is going to be more drilling. So, see you in a bit. What I have here is a setup for the next operation. We got to drill through the side of the project into the front of the project with the same drill bit that we use on the drill press. What that setup looks like is this. Basically, it's just a 1/4 inch brad point bit, the same size as what I use on the drill press. And I have a piece of tape here that's measured 1 inch in from the end to allow me to kind of stop where the tape is. If you're a little bit deeper, it's okay. But what I'm gonna do now is try to drill straight up and down, and I'm gonna drill through this, put a hole in here, and that's going to allow a peg to go in there to lock the drawer together. And I'll repeat that process throughout the whole drawer. And before I take the drawer apart, what I'm going to do is put the letter A right there, A right there. I'll put a B and a B and a C and a C and a D and a D, so that when I pull the drawer apart, I'll know where the parts fit together. So the B's will line up with the B's, C's will line up with the C's, and so forth and so on. So I'll finish drilling that off camera. We got our pins installed here, so they're all locked in, ready to go. We have our little letters here so we know which way they go. The last step before assembly is going to be to cut this this dado off, and it might not make sense right away, but after I'm done it will. So the way that looks is we're going to pull this apart, and only on one piece we're going to go to the table saw and remove this material right here. So let me go walk you to the table saw here and show you what that setup looks like. And then on camera, let's get the dust collectors on and I'll make that cut. Can you get the dust collectors on? So we remove that material, and what that's going to allow us to do is slip the back into the drawer. So let me reassemble this, and then we will show you what I'm talking about in more detail. So again, this is why the letters are important, so we can line up the different letters that I've made. So this is the C portion, and we'll go ahead and get this to be where it needs to be. All right, so now